another constitutional crisis. Mr. Dogpoop is running around screaming, complaining that the video guy is too slow at editing. When I talk to the video guy says, it's the computer. Computer's too slow. So I asked Mr. Dogpoop. Mr. Dogpoop says, I bought the fastest computer money could buy, the most cores, the most RAM, everything. What we didn't understand is that to do video editing, you need a strong GPU. What's a GPU? We're used to CPUs. GPU is the graphics processing unit. This computer has an onboard video card. Sure, it's great for office work, it's great for watching movies, great for TikTok, but it sucks for video editing. I told Mr. Dogpoop to go out and get the most expensive video card he could find. Now he wants me to put it in, and I'm gonna do that and show you how as soon as I go check his refrigerator and see if he has any beer. Sure enough, he's got a couple cases. I guarantee that'll be gone by the end of this video. This computer is about 1.5 years old, a 10-core processor, 5.2 gigahertz, pretty good, but again, the GPU is on the board. This is not made for doing video. So what did Mr. Dogpoop get me? So Mr. Dogpoop got this AMD graphics card, $350. It looks great. It's got a fan. Should do a great job. Put it in there. Video guy's still complaining. So I took Mr. Dogpoop's credit card and I went out and bought a 3090 card. GeForce RTX 3090 Zotac gaming card. Compare that with that. Problem is, we have to disassemble part of the case to get it in. Mr. Dogpoop saw the charge on his card and said, well, if you're gonna spend that much, you might as well get an actual good one. So Mr. Dogpoop ordered the 4090 card. Here's the standard video card, which is an upgrade from the onboard card. Here's the 3090 card, and here's the 4090 card. This thing is as big as the whole computer. It's actually bigger than the motherboard. Problem is, it won't fit in the case. There's no way to actually get it in. So in order to install this, we actually have to use a bigger case. This thing requires a huge amount of airflow, a huge amount of space, and a huge amount of power. We want 1,200 watts of power. Typical PC, about 400 watts of power. That's like 3 normal power supplies just to run that. This card was $350. This, $1,700. And this one was $2,200. Biggest problem is it's not gonna fit in the case. So we gotta spend another $200 on a large case. Let's take this and open up a new case. I want to say this case was about $150. There's a removable filter. This thing only has one fan in it. So this has room for 4 fans plus the fan on the back, but it didn't come with them. Has some cables in it. These are the hard drive bays. Put your hard drives in. There's some hardware and some instructions. GameX user manual, Silent Max. Well, it is gonna be silent because it didn't come with any fans. Power supply, another problem. So we spent $2,000 on the card, $200 on the case, and we had to get a bigger power supply, 1,200 watts. We got the Corsair RM1200X, 1,200 watt power supply. If the video guy complains after this, I'm gonna shoot him. This thing is massive. It's like a little power plant. Okay. Power cord. It comes with cables. We ordered a cable set, but I wish I had known that it came with cables. Would have been helpful. Would have been really helpful. Oh. The size of the fan in that thing. Massive, 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 massive. So we need to get that in the case. Okay, take a screw out of here. See if we can get this power supply cover out. There we go. One screw comes out. So the power supply can go in this way or this way. Should go in that way so it can pull up through this vent, but with this case, we won't be able to get to any of the power. With this in, it's going to cover up part of the power that we need to run the motherboard. So, probably not the best power supply for this case, but we just won't put that in. We'll put a couple screws in the back, hold that in. You also need to understand that this is a 1200 watt power supply. Typical home outlet is about 1500 watts, 15 amps, somewhere in that range. Well, you're going to use all of it. So if you have anything else plugged into it, it's probably going to blow the breaker. If you have a room on a 15 amp circuit breaker and it's the entire room, this is the only thing you're going to be able to run on it. And if you have a UPS system, you're going to need the biggest one you can get. So we got the power supply in. Now we need to take the other computer apart, take all the parts out, and put them in here. I'm going to go ahead and put the screw back in here for the cover just in case we don't lose it. We also need to take off the other side to get access. Bunch of crap over here on this side. When you're working with the screws, try to put the screws back in so you don't lose them. Oh, there are two fans in there. There's two fans in the front and one fan in the back. So there are 3 fans in here, plus we have a fan on the power supply. We have 3 fans on the GPU card, so we're gonna have a lot of air flowing through this thing. One of the things that you will have to do is you'll see this will not fit. So part of the hard drive bays have to be removed. So we'll be able to pull that out, and then that card is going to fit somewhere in here. And if you compare that to our original case, you can see the difference. And you can see the difference in those power supplies. Really no comparison. We're going to take the motherboard out of here, put it in this case, and then start putting it all back together. Okay, there's your motherboard power. This is a pin for, I assume, your on-off switches and USB cables. There we go. So they have standardized all these bolt patterns for these boards, but they're not all the same. There's a bunch of different places that the bolts can be, so it's not going to just come out and bolt into the other case. There we go. Whew. Open heart surgery. So there is a solid state drive on the board here. That is a 1 terabyte solid state drive. And we have another hard drive in the case that we want to move to the new case. There's a small regular drive. We should be able to use this case for something, but not for those big video cards. Bring our big case back up and see how the bolts line up. You can see these two in here line up. This one lines up. There is a thing here, but we don't have the, so we need to move these 2 pins up, and you can just unscrew those. We're going to use just a pair of pliers Take these out. Sometimes you can get them out by hand. These have a little stud on the bottom and then fitting in here. So they raise the board off away from the case. Just put it in the hole that actually lines up with the hole for the board. As I said, they're all standardized, but they're not always in the same place. Make sure you have those in tight. Otherwise, when you put the screw in and go to take it back out, the whole thing will come out instead of the screw coming out and releasing the board. Probably should have used a wrench. I got a little bit of brass shavings in there from trying to put it in. It was a little tight. Make sure you don't have any of that in there. That could definitely screw up your electronics. Okay, so this one is the Ethernet card. I'll take this out so that we can put that in place. And make sure you have gigabit Ethernet cards and not 10100s. You want something fast. You want Cat 6 cables. If you want to move data, you want to have the best technology. And that fits in there nicely and lines up with all the studs. We need this little plate. These are unique to the motherboards, and they go in here. Make sure you have it lined up with the right things, and that just fits in your case. They are not universal. They are specific to the motherboards, how they laid out their plugs. And that will fit in there. Couple your screws and get your board held into place. Don't tighten them down because you want to get them all in, lined up before you give yourself a little bit of play to work with to get all the screws in. We've got 2 in, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 more have to go in. Okay, we got everything in there. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten up those screws. These are small screws. They do need to be tight, but not too tight. You can see I'm not applying a lot of pressure. Definitely don't want one to come loose. There's a lot of vibrations, fans going on in here. At the same time, they're tiny little screws. All right. Everything's in there, everything's tight. We need a screw in here to hold that card slot. These are our hard drive bays. Okay, looks like it goes in like that. And I guess we have to go around the back side to get power to it. There we go. Here's the wires that go to our board. These go to all of our switches, our audio, USB cables. This should be our on-off, volume switch, everything for our onboard speaker. Okay, so this one goes here. They all look the same. Check your owner's manual. This one is also USB. Usually it says on the board, LED, LED, USB 2, USB 1. So we'll go ahead and put this on a USB. There's a 1 pin missing, so you can't mess it up. So you can't get it in the wrong position. Look for the missing pin. This says USB on it. This says USB. Line it up, and it goes right on. No problem. This is for our hard drive. I'm gonna need a magnifying glass to see this. So let me grab a magnifying glass out of the toolbox, and we can read some of these things on the board. Something everyone should have in their toolbox, a giant magnifying glass. It looks like the speaker is 4 on one side. The hard drive LED is the last 2. So these have things on them. They say power switch, reset switch, power LED minus, power LED plus, and hard drive LED. Power and reset. And then, all right, so we've got pretty much everything plugged in. Next thing is to hook up our power supply. We should have a cord for the motherboard. And the main board has this big long plug. And there are different styles and different sizes. Looks like that's the one. And then these go into, so that goes to your motherboard and then goes in that one. Okay, So the motherboard is powered. Things that we need to power are going to be things like the fan. So there's all these wires going to, and a bunch of loose cables. Okay, top fan, bottom fan, those are not there. Front fan, rear fan, and bottom fan, and they are hooked into this switch, which will fit here, there, there. Serial ATA, PATA, okay. Should be all these. Serial ATA, and bring them out this side. It's like an L-shaped, see a little L? There's a little notch on this side. And we need to line that up with the notch on the hard drive, and that will power our hard drive. I assume this is the power for the fans, so we're gonna run a standard cable to that. So these are the old style cables with the pins. We have one of these here, so we're gonna go ahead and plug that in to power the fans. It fits right in there. Okay, bring that up through here. And then this goes to type 5. Okay. You have, for the hard drive, this is your data cable. So that comes around to the back side as well. And again, that's a little L shape. You can't make a mistake, can't put it on this way. It really isn't gonna fit on anything else because nothing has that connector. So there's your data cable, there's your power cable coming up through here. Right now, it looks like a complete mess, but the thing to do is get everything hooked up, and then we'll go back and arrange the cables, tie them up, make them neat. But for now, it's just identifying cables, getting them in the right place. I've never worked on one of these, so it's a new experience for me. I'm gonna put the 3090 in here. We'll come back later and switch it out with a 4090, but right now, I am going to set up the 3090. It's going to be a little easier for me to get set up, get it working, and then come back and change the card. That is going to line up. That takes like 2 slots. So we're going to take out 2 of these little covers. And these are nice because they're perforated, so they let air go through. Most of the cases have solid plates. Keep your fingers from going in it. But these are vented. Get it lined up in your slot. Put it in, it'll snap in place. And this thing is a big card. So you have to put the screws back in. That's what's going to support it. I want to get those in and get them tightened down. The weight of the card is actually so heavy that it's pulling it back where I can't even get the screw in. So I have to lift up the back and put the screw in the front. But that will definitely hold it in place. This is a really shitty design with screws that you can't get straight into because screws should be there, or this should have cutouts in it so you can actually do that. But that's it in the PC world, they just do whatever. All right, pretty much everything is hooked up. We need to get power to this. This has 2 more power cables. So these have a separate piece over here that goes in. And again, you can't mess them up because they're square and corners that don't match up. So I'll go ahead and put this in here, this other piece here, 2 pieces, and then they go over into the type 5, which is, I guess, you go to the CPU power, same as these type 5s. This one actually has 2 on it, so we could have run 1 cable here into 2, but let's see if we can find another one. We'll run 2 separate cables instead of splitting off 1 cable. There's a reason why they have 2 of these coming in, because these things do draw a massive amount of power. That goes in there, come back here, and there we go. Okay, So we're running 2 power cables into this. If we were using the other one has 4 inputs, that might be a challenge. So all these things could end up getting stuck in a fan over here. We have fans over here. This gets stuck in a fan, and then you lose your everything. Looks like we have it all together. Before I tie up all these cables and get everything right, I'm gonna take it, plug it into the computer, see if it comes up, and then come back trying to make heads or tails out of this mess. So we took it up to the editing department, plugged it in, and it all works. Believe it or not, it all works. Now it's just a question of getting all these cables tied up with some cable ties, getting everything buttoned up so these don't end up in the fans or these fans or this fan. We keep everything clear. We don't want to have all this obstructing the airflow through the computer. We're also going to add in another hard drive, but we'll do that later. 3090 card is fine. We were going to put in the 4090, but we're going to go with the 3090 and see how that works. When we started this, we had an onboard GPU. Now we have a $1,600 Zotac gaming card, a 3090, and we have a bigger case, bigger power supply, more capacity to put in some more hard drives so that we have more space to store video. I'm gonna get these cables buttoned up. I'm gonna bring it back to the editing department, and we're gonna edit this video on this computer. So if you're actually watching this, I'm a genius. It's actually pretty hard to get these cables organized because you're only working with the cables you have, so you can't make your own sizes, which would make it a lot easier to keep this all straight. Probably wanna move some things around as you realize your cables come around each other and cross, but it's easy to unplug, plug back in, and get in a different position. It's a lot easier than trying to do that as you're putting it together. Always do your cable management last. Right now I'm just bundling them up in the right positions. I'll come back and twist them, flatten them out, and get them in nicer positions, but trying to get things out of the way. You'll need to work from both sides of your case to get the cables over to the other side. This side can be a little bit looser because you don't have to worry about it getting into fans and things. They do have some cable management straps here, some Velcro straps, which is nice. Can use those. What you don't want is this to be able to go back through here and end up in one of the fans. So we need to make sure we keep it tight through there. So as you're doing your cable management, you want as little cable on this side as you need, as far away from your fans, because anything close to a fan is going to disrupt the air supply and potentially get tangled up in the fan. And this thing has a lot of fans in it right now, and it has room for 4 more. This case does support a water-cooled CPU, which is nice, and it is the Silent Titan full tower case. This is an editing computer, so I'm less worried about the look of the wires than the performance. If it's a gaming computer and you want to put a cover on it and show everybody you did such a nice job, that's great, but we just want it to be able to edit. I want to keep this area cool, so if you had a bunch of cables laying over here, that's going to be a problem. Let's do this. Let's bundle that up here. So on this side, we're pretty good, but I want to make sure these don't come up in here, so I'm going to bring them around the back side, tighten those up. On the back side, and these cable ties are cheap, so just you buy them, use them, cut them off, reuse them. We have some slots in here because we took part of the case out to fit the 3090 card in. It had hard drive bays, but we needed space for the video card. The more you can get these cables organized and solid, the less problems you will have down the road. So it isn't the prettiest cable management job, but it's not the worst either. Let's get the covers back on. So isn't that pretty? That was a lot of work, but For just $2,200, we upgraded the computer. It's now in a new case, new fans, and it's gonna breathe new life into our videos. God, I'm fucking a good actress.